Hi, Lee Phillips. Question is an adopted child, does it inherit the same as a natural born child? And the answer is, depends on what your documents say, one, but two, legally an adopted child is the same as a natural born child. It's your kid. Legally, it's absolutely the same. Obviously, depends on how you write your will or your trust or whatever it is. I can leave things unequally to children. I had the question, do I have to put special language in to make the adopted child the same as a natural born child? And the answer is no. Most of the documents, the wills or the trusts, there'll be a provision that says, defines children, and it will say that an adopted child is the same as a natural born child. Usually the document describes the family, and in that you're going to list the four kids, and you could put John adopted, considered natural born, or something like that in parentheses after John's name in that identification of the kids in the trust or the will. They sometimes do that, but generally adopted, we just ignore it. And the question is, how do you define it? The common one is, we're going to divide the trust into equal shares so that each kid gets an equal share. And the adopted child would be considered a kid along with all the rest of the kids that were natural born. So it's not too big of a deal. If you feel a little awkward about it, then go ahead and do it. Now, here's the issue that I see a lot. I got married to my wife. It was her second marriage, and she had a 3-year-old daughter when we got married. And I never adopted the 3-year-old daughter, but I've raised her as my daughter for the last 40 years. Is she considered an heir to my estate? And the answer is no. That one you do have to identify specifically that this daughter is to be considered the same as a natural born child of you. So that needs to be written definitely in the document. Watch that one. I see that one creep up on you every once in a while. They will raise a child, and it will be not adopted. It's not my wife's. We just raised a child. They lived in our house for 20 years. Are they entitled to an inheritance? And the answer is no. There again, in your documents, you can say this kid was never adopted. They're to be considered a natural born child. Or this kid was never adopted. They are not considered a natural born child. I've had people say, I took care of the kid, I paid for him his whole life, and he doesn't get the inheritance my natural born children get. I've already given him stuff. That's fine. Whatever you want to do is fine, but you've got to write it down specifically, and you've got to think, okay, adopted is legal. Not adopted, if I consider this to be my child, but I never formally adopted the 3-year-old girl that my wife had before we got married, that has to have special consideration. So you need to be very specific in the documents. Now, get my how to use a trust, and I'll go through that, and I go through how to name guardians and that sort of thing for younger children. That's a hang-up for a lot of couples, or a lot of people doing their estate planning. Who do we name as guardians? We're not going to get into that. We actually have another YouTube on considerations for a guardian. But get the How to Use a Trust, the ebook. We don't sell your name. You're not on a list. Don't worry about it. And I don't spam you. I try and send out one a week, but don't do very well at it. Make sure that you subscribe and love us and like us and all of that sort of stuff. In fact, Tell your friends that we're here. We answer a lot of people's questions, and we do it pretty plainly compared to a lot of other sites. Lee Phillips talking about, is an adopted kid same as a natural born? How do I take care of them in my estate planning?